Well, the Prime Minister has flagged new cost of living relief measures to be unveiled later this year. Live now to Trudy McIntosh in Canberra. Trudy, do we know what we could be on offer?
Well, the Prime Minister pretty tight-lipped about exactly what we could see in terms of cost of living relief in 2024, but a clear signal and a promise from the Prime Minister that more is on the way ahead of the May budget. He's asked the Department of Finance and Treasury to come up with new options that they can release as a part of the budget process. But crucially, it has to be things that take pressure off inflation. So don't expect to see any cash handouts like we might have seen in the past. That would only make inflation work. The government is understood to be considering other options like we've seen before with those energy bill rebates. That help take some of the pressure out of inflation. And so the government is considering ways to do that in the May budget. Have a look at the Prime Minister.
We asked them to give consideration to what are the measures that can take pressure off families on cost of living without putting pressure on inflation. That's the key issue here. If you were just to distribute additional cash to people, you potentially make inflation worse and therefore don't help to solve the problem.
And Trudy, Anthony Albanese has slammed the former government over missing cabinet documents. What can you tell us?
Well, this might have slipped under the radar. A statement came out on New Year's Day confirming that 78 cabinet documents that were meant to be transferred to the National Archives of Australia didn't happen in a process in 2020 under the former Morrison government. That statement on New Year's Day indicated potentially this had been an error as a result of dealing with the COVID pandemic. But as you heard the Prime Minister there, he wants to go further and ensure that this was not some other reason why the then government decided not to transfer these documents. This is part of the usual process we see at this time of year where the cabinet papers from 20 years ago are publicly released. Now, we know in 2003 this was all about the decision for Australia to send troops to Iraq, something that Labor, the leader at the time, Simon Crean, did not support. As you'll hear here from Anthony Albanese, he's not happy that they weren't transferred. He wants to see them released publicly. And there's also going to be an inquiry underway right now by former top bureaucrat Dennis Richardson into why the documents weren't transferred.
Australians have a right to know the basis upon which Australia went to war in Iraq. My government believes that this mistake must be corrected, that the National Archives of Australia should release all the documentation.
Are you concerned that there's been a cover-up here?
Well, that's why we have asked Dennis Richardson to do the review.
Now, we shouldn't have to wait long for answers here. The Prime Minister flagging that Dennis Richardson will report back to government within the next fortnight.
Trudy McIntosh in Canberra, thank you.